I'm very happy you made it. Hello, my name is Matthias. I will speak today about test-driven development. The abbreviation is TDD. You might have heard of that. And one of the subtitles of the infamous book of Ken Beck is Embrace the Change. And this is what I also want to do with you today. And let me speak about a very nice and very important topic about myself, who I am. I'm a senior software engineer at Arilo. Arilo is the nicest company in the world, of course. And we have the most skilled team I ever worked with, and I'm not lying here. This is really insane because I have really skilled and really insane, talented colleagues. I am a KMP believer, of course, because KMP is what you should do. Who needs iOS, right? And the other thing is, like, I organize some stuff in Berlin. I make the Kotlin user group. I make the virtual Kotlin user group if you just want to join and you don't live in Berlin. I make the Extreme Tuesday Club, and so on and so on. And there's another thing which is really important to me personally, because it's my child, basically. It's my thing. It's the XP Unconference, but I come to that later. If you want to stay with me in touch, I was there. You can just scan this nice little QR code. That's basically me on LinkedIn. So I'm normally not so active, so I promise you I will not spam you with anything, but I actually posted the last day something, so it might happen that I speak something or write something. So, and let me start with an empty slide, because first of all, why I'm here, why I want to speak about this topic. Like you, I was encountering this entire AI topic maybe a year, 2 years ago, when it started, right? And I didn't took it really for serious, but for a little bit more than a year, I got really, really scared, because you see, I have a lot of friends which are also Android engineers or making something with software, and all of them said, oh yeah, this AI thing is the next hot shit and we don't need developers. And that scared the shit out of me, honestly. So as you see, I have a very flavorful language, but I try to be myself. That's fine. And the thing is, with all this topic was like how I can actually also participate in this change and not just stay behind or just be afraid in my little corner. So for me, I do extreme programming and also TDD for quite a while already. And I thought, like, back then, how I can combine it. And was anybody from you last year here? Some of you. That's nice. So last year, I taught a lot of crap. Don't remember that. Forget it. So that's good. And this year, I got a little bit more active. And as I already said, I did an unconference. I organized it with a friend of mine. And this was really nice. That happened last weekend. You really missed out. And we had a weekend full of this topic. So I'm really loaded with insights, which I would like to talk an hour, 2 or 3 again, about, but I can't because I just have 40 minutes. And what I actually want to tell you already, I might overreach the time. That's the first thing. And the second time, this time is no live coding. I'm super sorry, but there's so much theory I also want to share with you, and that's really nice. So, and let's speak about this guy. Who knows who this person is? Only a few. This is Dave Farley. That's a very important person. And he had made a very nice book and a very important book. I don't get money for that. I'm sorry for myself. But you see, there's the book Modern Software Engineering. You should actually buy that, because he promotes a very important mindset through that, which we need, especially in those days. Because let's be honest and let's facing it, like the future is not about coding so much anymore, right? I come to that later, but you should actually prepare yourself, read that book, and I wish I would get money for that. So why I want also talk about the topic, right? I'm a lazy person, right? We all are, right? And laziness is one of my big things. I want actually to do also my daily job. I really don't want to do more than I have to. And you see, TDD is already making me lazy in a sense, and I hoped so far that this entire AI bubble also helped me with that. The second thing is, like, I want to really focus myself on the stuff which matters. Then we speak about business, and we speak about the product. You need to understand the entire system, and so on and so forth. And if you can free up your time from coding, and you can invest more in that, that's also good for you, because this is the next step. Also in your career, I promise you. And the last thing, this is super important, is fun. Because if I don't have fun at work, I don't want to work. And I think like this goes for most of you, right? No matter how much people you pay, fun is crucial. Fun is important. So, and the next thing is like, what are my essential questions on this topic, right? What is really bugging me? What I'm sitting at home in my bathtub and thinking about and almost want to cry. So first of all, how actually AI helps us, how it augments us, how it makes us better as engineers, makes us faster, because apparently speed is a metric where companies really take a look on. The second thing is, of course, in the broader context, where do we move? Where does this topic of programming move in the future? And this is something which I think I'm not alone. I know from some people in the room that they have exactly the same question. And this is the third one is always something you hear quite a lot. Test-driven development is dead. So, yeah, this time let's ask if TDD is dead because of AI. So, and the last question is, I think, for everybody here in the room, really important. So, where this AI trend actually leads us as an industry. So, with all what it meant, right? So, how is it with job security? How is it with the next generation on engineers, and so on and so forth? There's something happening right now, and I think you all are aware, but we don't speak so much about it, unfortunately. But I try to give a small answer about this question. So let's breathe for a moment, because I also have to calm down. Because I'm super nervous, this topic is super important to me. So the thing is, like, when it comes to tests, I think the marketing of this entire thing is already wrong. And even Ken Beck admitted it was not the smartest move to call it test-driven development, because it wasn't, right? It's not about tests. Tests is something nobody wants to do of us. But what we actually want to do is something else, right? We want to define what we actually want to achieve with our software, right? We want to have goals. We somehow also need to measure them, right? We have to know when we are done. And with that, we need a verification mechanism for that, right? So, and also through all these things, how we can actually secure our software for our next person, our next developer, maybe also a UX person, maybe a developer in 20 years, which comes about our little crap corner of code, right? This is really important, because code is also a mirror of communication of your company, of your team. And that's why this is Conway's law in short terms. So, and the last thing is also how we make it possible that we back our ever-changing systems up, also for us, because you know how it is, requirements are never clear, user flows are never clear, and you have constantly to tweak with them. And actually, how you can back that up, that you have this capability to do constantly. So, test-driven development was exactly invented for that. That's the Ken Beck book. That's the other book. You should actually buy both of them. So, maybe from your education budget, because I hope you have some. So, so why are we actually doing TDD, right? It's exactly that. We want to deal with complexity. This is why TDD was created in the first place, right? We want also to deal with uncertainty. Uncertainty really is a big, big problem for most of the teams, I think, and also if I speak with others, because they struggle how they actually can make the next step after another and another. And TDD helps you with that, because TDD teaches you a very certain thing. So, and also like how we can deal with change. As I mentioned earlier, right? Requirements might constantly changing. Maybe you get some user feedback and you have to make a change, and so on and so forth. I mean, like, you all know it from your own Slack channel, how much it comes through the day. Oh, maybe the login is wrong. Maybe this is wrong. Can you change it? And so on and so forth. So, and this is the TDD cycle, which actually is the method which helps you to cope with all of this, right? We first of all, writing a failing test, we make the test pass, and we refactor our code. I won't go into deep through that because time, but if you have questions, please ask later. So, and what is actually crucial for TDD in the basement? So first of all, there's a golden 10 seconds rule. This only goes for unit tests, because actually if you write something like a test, right, you want to jump immediately to write the production code. Then you step back, look if you can refactor, and you do that. And you try to make that in a 10-second cycle. And this is super important because it keeps you focused. Otherwise, and this is a problem I saw also on me very often, if I can't do that, it breaks my focus. And if I do that a couple of times in a row, I'm done. I can't do anything on the day anymore. But this 10-second cycle through that is very important. So the next thing is like, from the mindset, you think only one step at a time, not more. It's just it. You just focus down on this little bit what you're working. It's not about in 20 years or in 5 years or what might happen tomorrow. It's just about now and now. That's it. So on the other side, right, you also gain the capability or the ability to actually also cope with the entire context of your system, right? So, and what you actually need, because this is also a myth about TDD, is simply two things. You need to know what it goes in and what goes out. This is all you need, right? You don't need to know how a unit actually behaves. You just need to know what you put in and what you get out, because through that, you actually can observe the behavior. That's all. And I know many people say, yeah, TDD doesn't work because I don't know the requirements. You don't need to know them. You just need to know the inputs and the outputs. That's it. So, and what are the crucial features about test-driven development? First of all, it's scalable, right? You can make it in a small pace. You can make it in a big pace. So then we speak in a big pace of acceptance-driven development or acceptance test-driven development. And in the small pace, it's just TDD. So the second thing, and this is super important because this is also how our brains work, right? We make incremental steps towards a goal. Not everything at once, not the entire context at once. We just make a small step and another step and another step, right? And the third thing is like, these steps are workable. They are not too huge. There's in this portion size that you can work with them and you keep them in your brain. So, and what it makes, you see, right? I'm super confident in this method. You get a boost of confidence. And also, and this is actually also scientifically proven, you get speed if you get really skilled in this method. There's a book called Accelerate, or I also tell you, read this book, because it will also maybe resolve some myths you have in your head, but it's really scientifically proven that something like test-driven development will boost your speed and not test after development. That's important. And another thing, feedback, right? You know in a certain amount of time if what you have done is right or wrong, and if you might have to change something or not, if you are on the right track or not. So this feedback cycle is actually very crucial, and that's something I really appreciate. So, and you can make that also on the big scale. And the outcome of the entire thing is, in the end, you have a very precise description of what the thing actually is and what it does, right? In other words, you have a living specification of your system, and that's amazing because we can put it to use and every time we need it. And I think everybody saw that already, right? A test pyramid, right? And the crucial thing or takeaway from this is, like, you have a big base of unit tests, which are most of your tests. You might have some component tests. This is not very common to write these days, I know that. And in the end, you have some end-to-end tests, however they look. What most people not really keep in mind, first of all, the runtime of those tests, if you go up in the pyramid, gets much longer, right? And with that, also the costs. Because like end-to-end tests are normally run by somebody like who is in the QA department. That means also your feedback comes really late, not immediate. That means also the cost of fixing that is much higher, because normally you might already work on something else and you just get thrown out of your context what you're doing and have to go back to something you did maybe 2 weeks ago. And that is bad. You want to have a feedback much, much earlier. Okay, breathe again. Chapter 2, the AI thing. Who uses AI normally in their daily work? That's quite a lot. That's nice. So let me start with something. AI is now everywhere, right? Who thought that? So, and I mean, like, for us, it may be already normal, but I see also people which are doing QA these days, or friends of mine which are doing QA, or some designers, which actually have the struggles we had a year ago, right? AI for them is really new, and they don't know actually how to deal with that, and also how to what to think of that. For example, who actually used the Figma client or the Figma agent? Quite some. The experience is quite nice, right? As a developer, you can develop out of a sudden your own design. You don't necessarily need a designer anymore. And this is quite cool, because I am super bad when it comes to visual design. My aesthetic is a terminal. That's all what I need. So, but the other thing is like, I know that I know that would work. The other thing is what many people forget. AI is just a tool, right? It's not a solution. It's just a tool. You can't. You might can throw AI on a problem, but it will not give you always a solution. And even worse, it might mistrack you on something wrong. Maybe it's a wrong assumption, or maybe you solve it wrong. The other thing is like, and this one I really hate, that people say we don't need junior developers anymore. We need them. We need them for the future, because who should take care of our mess in 10 years, right? So, and you're laughing about it. It makes me really sad, because I think like companies don't understand what is the real value of a junior developer. It's not the coding. It never was. It's somebody which comes to you and says, why is it here? Why I need a view model? What is it even? Can I eat it? So, right? This is good, because it keeps your mind sane, and you maybe stop doing the same routine over and over again. That's super important, and that's the value, because they will outsmart you, and we are just sometimes too old or grumpy, and I'm old and grumpy, to actually admit that they are maybe on a very good lead, and we are not, because they're right, they're young, they're unexperienced, we should be, right? But junior developers are very important, and also mid-developers, because what I see right now on the job market, it's not only that junior developers don't get positions anymore, which is sad enough. Also mid-level developers more and more have it really difficult to find their next job. And that shouldn't be like that. We need them. Let's be honest. And this is also important, right? We all know those people who say, oh yeah, it will fix everything. It's a new messiah. It's not. Simply as that. AI is great. It's a tool, but that's it. Nothing more. It's a tool. So now my ranting is over. Sorry for that. So, and what we're actually speaking about when we speak about AI, right? There are 3 different types. We have our first generation. That's the oldest one. That's most likely the one we are most familiar with. That's the auto-completion. That's great. I was somebody who hated that at the beginning, but I'm also using that right now. Second generation is the chat agents like Gemini, right? We get very familiar over the last year with that. And the newest edition is actually agentic coding. Something like Claude Code. Who is using Claude Code? I hope you like it, right? And when we speak about AI, we mean everything of that, not just a particular thing. And it makes it sometimes a little bit difficult to speak about, because the capabilities of one of those things are really different than if you, for instance, has the agentic thing. It will just work over maybe an hour, over 2, maybe overnight. The auto-completion gives you something instantly, almost. Let's come to a little bit more scientific approach, because what I don't like is that we just speak out of our guts, right? We need some more flash, we need some backup, we need some numbers to actually have an idea what we're actually talking about. I also spoke about this study last year. I still can recommend the study, because they make an update every year right now. So they have numbers over the last 5 years. So check it out. The Get Clear AI Copilot Quality Study. And this is actually the numbers, what I figured out. And you see the red column. Let me see if my thingy works. And, there we go. Like this number is the added lines, right? It tells you itself nothing, but if we look at the deleted lines, together we get an idea what we are speaking about. And this number is quite interesting, moved. So think about when you move code. It's normally if you refactor, right? So, and what you can see actually from 2020, and 2020, by the way, was a year where we still had no AI agents around. So since 2020, the number of moved lines is declining rapidly. It's already even halved, right? And on the other side, there's another very interesting number, copy-paste, this one. And it went from 8% to 12%. That's really interesting. And the last number, I already spoke about this last year, is the churn. I hope I this year pronounced it right. Which actually tells you something if people roll back code or code bases. So we see rollbacks go up, we see copy-paste goes up, refactoring goes down. It doesn't sound so nice, right? So. And last year, there's also a very interesting fact that 2024 was the first year where the copy-paste were exceeding the movement of code, which means we have an increase of code duplications. And we all know, right, where that leads to. We don't want that, actually. Yeah? We all want a very dry code base because that makes it for us easier to also cope with complexity. But AI goes in the other way. Another very interesting study is this one. This goes more into the realm of how you actually work with an AI agent. I can gladly say I was a participant. And that was quite interesting because I actually know how they conducted the study. So if you have questions, just come to me. And what I figured out is something very interesting. First of all, there's no really difference in terms of speed between people with AI or without AI. This is super interesting. But the more senior you are with the AI tools, if you are more used to it, and also more senior with tech at all, the faster you get. There is an increase up to 12%, which is nice, right? But only then. You need to have skill in both domains. And another very interesting observation is like people which are using AI tools, even if they are faster, in reality, feel less productive. So I would make the bold claim they might have also less fun with it. But this is not in a study. This is just my hunch. I would like to perform a study about that. And the other thing is what I really also could believe at the first time I saw it, that actually AI helps with certain code smells, like the bumpy road code smell, which basically says that you mix up layers and abstraction. Their AI actually shines. I wasn't expecting that, but apparently it does. But on the other side, due to the fact that AI is really verbose, and we all know that, it increases actually the overall complexity of a code base. So if you want to see how they conducted the study, I can give you the thing so that you can look it up. But we come to that maybe at the end. And the other thing is their conclusion was like that AI-assisted programming might miss the sweet spot between actually code you put out in the wild and the actual value you produce through that. And we all know that there is a balance, right? That you have some sort of verbosity because we can't cope with functions which might called F1, F2, F3, F4. We need a certain level of verbosity. On the other side, if we write huge long if statements instead of a loop, that brings us also nothing, right? So AI is more on the verbose side. So there's a disalignment of this balance. The next one is that it was observed that developers get more and more a shallow understanding of what they're actually doing. And that's quite dangerous, I would claim. And last of all, there's a risk of skill erosion. And there's another study on that, which is more generalized about JetGPT, which is your brain on JetGPT, which also comes to the observation that your logical center is actually degrading if you use AI too much. That's quite interesting, but for us, quite dangerous, I would claim. And the last one, because this is really famous and you see that very often cited, that's why I also put it in the presentation. And I just want to show you the name, which is quite telling, Mock. It's quite a coincidence, right? So, and this was just a very small study. I think like they had 10 or 20 persons, I think more 10-ish. So, and they had a mixed group of people. There were people which didn't have programming experience at all. There were some data scientists and some software engineers. And they figured out, first of all, of course, non-technical person can use AI, and that also leads to results. But non-tech people trust the AI much more than tech people, surprise, and that might also mislead them into a problem they can't solve on their own anymore. The second thing is like they were really clear about it, that assisted programming will assist or can assist engineers, but it will not replace them. Because what the engineer brings is a certain level of creativity which AI can't bring into the mix. And this is also not surprising. You can, of course, fully automate your code creation flow, right? Also with testing, also TDD style. But what they actually proved is that the quality, and I mean by quality something like what cases are covered by tests, what is actually working, and so on, is the lowest, because the AI tends to only go the happy path, and that's it. No edge cases, no unhappy path, only the happy path. And there's much more, so check it out. So let me take a sip, because I'm talking. So, observations. And that's just for me what I see, what I hear when I speak with people. First of all, it really depends on what context we are when it comes to AI. I mean, here it's really easy. We are speaking about Kotlin, we are speaking about Android, but if you, for instance, speak about with somebody with, which is more in web development, he will say, oh yeah, it's so awesome, it can do everything. And there's a reason for that, because it can. Of course, there are so much more examples for web development than for Android, right? There are so much more better examples also for web development than for Android. So, and another observation is the more clearer project structure you have, the better AI agent can actually deal with it. For example, if we look at the Arilo, we have a very strict structure how our code looks like. So colleagues of mine, for example, here in the first row, you can ask them, can just in an instant create some stuff. And even Marco, you might have checked out also his talk, was during the conference running the agent just to do something, right? And we have to review it later. But this only works because we have a very strict structure, and it also goes for test. If you have a very strict test structure and you always follow the structure, the AI agent can actually produce very valuable code. If you have chaos and if you are not very concise, it won't work. And the last thing you really need to actually deal with AI is verification, right? You can't trust the thing, that it always does the right thing or the thing you intended. So you need to have a handle how to verify actually what the AI agent does. So, and in which point then assisted programming actually works well is if you have bigger chunks of code, right? And there it really exceeds. So the bigger the better, because you can just go drink a coffee or do something else. A friend of mine, which is CTO, and he runs overnight like 5 or 6 agents just to get some stuff done. And he comes back in the morning, checks it out, and starts working with that. And that works for him really nice. So, and he also says the things he actually can deliver through that went from months to weeks, even to days in some cases, which is really nice. That's what we actually want, right? So what is also working really well is if you use it to perform some auxiliary task, like speaking, you need some test dummies. Let the AI do. It can do that pretty well, right? And as you see, I have a rubber duck here. So I rubber duck my AI, and I'm really speaking with my AI because I'm alone at home and I just have a white wall, and that makes me a little bit nuts sometimes. And the good thing is, like, if you have a computer, it normally these days also supports some voice input, right? Or you can use some stuff like Elven Labs, which also gives you an avatar and also voice feedback, and you just can talk with your AI while you're programming. That keeps you even mentally sane. That's really nice. You should try it. I'm not kidding, really. I do that. So, what else? Yeah, there are inherent flaws in the AI, of course. First of all, AI is not precise. And this, the problem is, like you see, I speak normally not really good, I speak normally German, not English, so my English might be not so precise because it's not my mother tongue. But imagine I now have to program in English, so it gets even more imprecise. And since you communicate with AI agents normally in natural language, so AI really already gets imprecise input and has to do something with that. This is already a flaw. Programming languages, on the other side, they are precise, right? They are always on the spot. There is no room for interpretation. There's a big difference, and it is also for AI a very big flaw. Another thing is it's biased. So, like for example, if you try to use Gemini for a review, it will sometimes pop up something or some issue which is not really an issue systematically, because maybe you don't encounter this nullability issue because you never go there, right? It doesn't understand that. Or, for example, you want to have no mocks in your code base, but every time you want to do something with it, it tries to introduce something like kmock or anything like this. And the reason for this is really easy, because it was trained with mocks mostly. So through that, it actually enforces our biases. So in this sense, the AI itself is biased. And it's verbose. We already spoke about that. It makes a lot of stuff. So, and the last point is very, very important. It's monolithic. It can't really cope with incremental steps. It wants to do everything always at once. You really have to teach it to make small steps. That also works not always, only in a certain context, but this is really important, because this actually contradicts us people, humans, because we are much better to make small steps. This is something which fits in our head, not if we generate everything at once out of it. Side notes. So first of all, AI also will cheat you. For instance, like I use really much for all of my personal projects Claude Code, which is amazing, but I realized that it not always runs the test, and even if it runs the test and there's something wrong, it says, yeah, all good. Why, right? So also something I just want to say for those people who think generating tests is a good idea. No, it's not, because here you make one big mistake. You see, the code base is a solution. The code base doesn't formulate the goals, what you actually want to reach with the solution. You then might also have some flaws in your solution. And taking this and then generating tests out of that, that doesn't work, right? You can't trust the tests, you can't trust the code base, who you trust in the end, right? Doesn't work. And this I already said, AI is more like a catalyst, or is actually making us more aware what's already wrong with us, with our industry and everything. Like, let's come back to the junior developers, right? This is something companies wanted to get rid of years ago, but they can't, because we need them. And now they think they can get rid of them. So it's a catalyst for things which are already bad. And it's a cost factor, because like also the same guy I spoke before, the CTO, he just burned in the last months 10K for tokens. That's almost a developer, right? Or it's a developer, actually. That's insane. Yeah, and the last one is also very important. Assisted programming is, of course, not deterministic. You never get the same thing twice out of it. So, okay. Oops, jetzt I was too fast. So, and in the end, now the boring part is over, I promise. So I have some open question which I can't answer, and this is actually something you should also take out of this talk. I don't have the answers. I have only questions right now, because I don't know where this entire thing goes. And to be honest, we need all the brain power in this room and also outside to actually figure it out, and also how we can get very good with that. So, for example, the biggest question I'm still like struggling with is like how we can make AI work in terms of the batch size, which means like it falls a lot of stuff out of it, but how I can work with it in an efficient way, because normally I'm faster writing that myself, and sometimes even better than reviewing what an AI agent does, honestly. So the second thing is like, I also don't really know what's happening there anymore, right? I get alienated in my own code base. So how I can also remember what I'm doing there. And also, what is the long-term consequences? Because no matter where you look, there's no study, there's nothing which actually can tell us what happens in 5 years, or maybe even in 3 years, after introducing AI to a team. Right? Because it goes beyond the code base, it goes in the team, it goes into the organization, right? Because now we come back to Conway's law. The code is just, how to say that? It's just a manifestation of the structure of the company, right? And the AI or AI agents or assisted programming are part of it. And of course, this is also very important, what we teach the next generation, because they grow up or they are socialized as developers or engineers completely different than us. And I don't know, right? I would like to say, do it this way I did, because that worked for me, but I can't, because time has changed. Maybe they have to learn through TikTok, I don't know. I really mean that, because TikTok is for them really a thing, right? I'm too old for that, but they learn through that, and I really can appreciate that. Let's breathe again, because now comes the difficult part, how we put both things together. We know TDD is a method which actually was created to deal with complexity, right? On the other side, we have AI agents, which create a lot of complexity alone through verbosity. So actually, that should be a good pair, right? So another observation we can make, TDD and AI, both of them need an upscaling by default. It's not like, as some people might promise, yeah, you get an instant much more productive with an AI agent. No, that's not true. You need the skill of using them. And also, the thing is, like, TDD actually provides a very precise specification and patterns and all these goodies, which actually we want in assisted programming, because assisted programming is quite good in dealing with structured code. So somehow, again, how we get it together, right? And what we need for assisted programming, as I said before, we need a handle to control all of this mess, which is there created. So let's come back to the test pyramid, and let's maybe look at layer for layer for layer, what it actually means in this context. First of all, let's start with the bottom layer, unit tests, right? What we can observe, and it's just like this, AI agent will break automatically the 10 seconds rule. It's not avoidable. So this makes it already pretty much useless on this layer, because it will break your focus. And that means if you can't focus constantly, your brain will not really focus on the thing anymore. And that makes it not really good to use in this layer. But there must be a solution. Maybe we need to move it a little bit up. Also, as I already mentioned, right, AI agent might enforce a certain code style which you don't want to have, like mocks, right? And this makes me really sad, the third point. What I realized that I don't know which agent, but I had already my test base, I had already part of my production code, and at some point the agent just started to ignore the entire test base and created out of some thin air something else. So this is not great, because this is quite important, especially if you go one step at a time. It should constantly actually watching the tests. So, and this is the last one is even more weird. Sometimes it starts changing the tests just to make them green. Even you think like it should be this way, the AI say, no, I want to make it this way. So as I said, it makes it, for me, and that makes me really sad, a little bit pretty much useless on this layer. So component tests. There it gets a little bit better. But for example, I was dealing with some, and you can ask those guys, with some fancy tests for navigation, especially with HILT, because that makes me really confident that my navigation graph is working. AI is really bad with HILT. That makes me also really wondering why, because it should not be, right? And also here, if you want, for instance, to have fakes and you don't need particular methods, it will automatically verbosely create everything even though you don't need it, and you tell it twice or 3 times or 10 times, don't create these methods. It makes it anyways, which is not, it's not nice. But, so where it really is nice, and this was one of the big learnings I had from the last weekend, was protocol-based testing. So now you need to know what's protocol testing. Basically what you do is you abstract all your function calls in some nice phrases. You could actually use for that infix methods. You can build in sentences like, when this unit exists, I click on this, then this happens. You can do that with infix methods and protocols. And this works pretty much out of the box with any client I checked. That's quite nice. So, and the last one, end-to-end tests. And this thing really excited me. It works, simply as that. Because the context is big enough, the AI sees everything, and out of a sudden, boom. So what we do simply is we give a user story. So what is user story? User story, right? It's just plain language, right? There we are, natural language again. We can say who wants something, we can say what he wants and why, and we also can impose certain constraints. So through that, we then also can come up with certain methods, certain examples, which is called, as a method, example mapping. So then we have this all in natural language text, which we understand, which your product owner understands, which your UX person understands, which your QA understands. Very easy. You can sit over that by a coffee. The next step is really, really easy. This is an example for such a user story, right? And the next step, we just take this, put it into the AI, and say, create me a gherkin thing. Gherkin is a formalized language, which is still natural language-ish, but has certain constraints. So it's precise, but on the other side, even a normal product manager or product owner or stakeholder can understand it. So through that, you can, first of all, formulate something like a feature. So, and this has certain properties, and those features have scenarios, right? Where you can actually say, oh yeah, I'm on this page, I click this button, and this dialog pops up, for example. And this is all in a very formalized way. So you can call it like intermediate code, because the next step is very easy. You take this gherkin stuff after you, of course, reviewed it and looked if everything is fine. But I am here pretty honest. I maybe run in 2 cases, and I really tried that thing out where it was incorrect or it forgot something, whatever, right? You can just take this thing, put it into AI and say, make me Maestro tests. So, which is for us as Android people nowadays, or also Appium works, is actually the medium where we make our end-to-end tests. And then you get something like this. And it's much longer. That's just a snippet, right? And it just works. It's amazing. I was really buffeted. And you can, if the scenarios are easy enough, you can even say, yeah, do I need unit tests? Maybe just create everything and walk from there. That also works. And that's good enough in some cases. That's amazing. That's what we want, right? Because then we don't spend maybe a day, 2 or 5 days with that shit. We don't want it. So try it out. And this means something for our test pyramid. And this test pyramid is, of course, produced with Gemini. I just love this, right? I told it so many times, it's productivity, but well, but the thing is, what we can see, like the wider we widen the scope, the more productive we get. The downside is, of course, we can't make the end-to-end tests very big because then we break the fast feedback cycle. But in certain cases, maybe they are enough, which is already better than before, let's be honest. So, chapter 4. And then we are almost done because I'm thinking I'm already over time, yes, sorry for that. So first of all, assisted programming is a disruptive change for the industry. Let's be honest. But we shouldn't be afraid of it. We should embrace it. Second thing, it's not about thinking like with Compose. It's not about how we put XML together and how to make this thing work with Recycler View or whatsoever. We are now more going in the direction of declarative programming. We're defining goals instead of telling the thing actually how to achieve that. We are quite not there, but we are in the beginning of it, and that's quite exciting, right? The next thing is like, as an engineer, you can't rely on a pure tech alone mindset. That won't work anymore because you, of course, need to understand the product. You need to understand your business and everything to actually make this approach work. And on the other side, right, if you're a product person, you can't rely on the, I'm just a product person anymore because then the developer comes or the engineers can, I know that shit. So I can also do that. Why would you need you? So, and we are a little bit in a dilemma, as you said, right? We want in the bottom layer make more smaller steps, but we can't because AI is not really good with that. And honestly, I don't have an answer for that now. Maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years, I don't know. And this is really crucial because I know a lot of people are struggling with that. How we keep the fun in all of our work. We didn't speak about that, or I didn't speak about that today, but this is quite crucial because if we lose the fun about what we are doing, we won't do it anymore. And in the end, I think like extreme programming and assisted programming together is a match on the one side made in heaven, because sometimes it's just amazing, and on the other side it's really a match in hell at the same time. And with that, if you want, you can fill out this nice little form and give me feedback, because I also want, of course, to improve the talk. But I can promise you already, if you come and see the talk again, maybe in 6 months somewhere else, it won't be the same. I changed it every time I hold a talk. This is already the 4th installment. And with that, I'm open to questions. I'm just 5 minutes over time. Thank you.